Who are the losers? The UN, giant loser. France, loser. Germany, loser. Democrat Party, forget about it. They're out of business. Hollywood, out of business. The protesters, marginalized for the next 20 years. And in the government, the U.S. State Department is the big loser. Who are the winners? I think you all know who they are. The American military. Military. Say guns, boys and girls. This liberation occurred with guns. Donald Rumsfeld, big winner. General Tommy Franks, our hero. And, of course, Victoria Clark. George Bush, big winner. Understand this man had the guts and the daring and the brains and the backup and the intelligence and the education and everything else it took to take on this tyrant and to defeat him and liberate the Iraqi people. The demented liberals continue to talk about, well, you didn't find the weapons of mass destruction. That isn't enough for you, liberating 30 million people? That's not enough for you? You need to focus on weapons of mass destruction? And then what? When we find them, you're going to say they're not exactly the weapons of mass destruction you said were there? Where there was no real atom bomb there? Don't you people understand that America has seen who you really are? They ripped the mask off your hypocrisy. You're the big losers. Liberalism is dead in America. That's my prediction. Most Americans happen to agree with Michael Savage.
Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, and psychological nudity. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're watching MSNBC. Now, best-selling author and one of America's most popular radio personalities, Michael Savage, on the Savage Nation.
Well, here we are. It's another Saturday in the Savage Nation, and I'm looking at the old York Times, and old Pinchy Sulzberger is at it again. Look at the headline. Here's a mosque, damaged mosque, of course, religious institution bombed by the evil U.S. military. Now, what Pinchy doesn't tell you is that this mosque was used to hide weapons and men who wanted to kill our men. So once again, I must say, Pinchy Sulzberger, have you no shame? You may win yet the Libby Award of the day. We're going to see who's going to win the Academy Award, or which I will call today the Libby. We're not calling them Oscars anymore. They're Libbies for the Hollywood idiot of the day. But today we have other topics to deal with. We have Uday Hussein's House of Ecstasy, mansion, heroin, Prozac, hookers, torture chambers. We have Bush's big catches. Huge story. 3 of Saddam's inner circle arrested just this week. No media attention. No big deal to catch some of the top terrorists of the world. We are also going to talk about Honey, We Shrunk the Military. That's a sitcom starring Hillary and Bill. Our guest will be Congressman David Dreyer, who's on the Armed Services Committee. We're going to talk about the Lacey Peterson case in this way. Why is there more media attention over this sad murder mystery than over Iraq? Is America more interested in a murder mystery than in the liberation of 24 million people? I wouldn't call it a media conspiracy, but it's a double homicide. Now, let's talk about the double homicide for a minute. Interesting that California's very liberal Attorney General went center stage on this topic yesterday. A man who wants to take away our guns, a man who is so progressive that even the progressives are afraid of him. And you know what's interesting to me living in California? It's double homicide, as it should be, by the way. Lacey Peterson and the unborn baby, it's not just a piece of tissue, is it? And yet the left, which denies that a fetus has a life when it comes to aborting that fetus, is suddenly willing to admit that it's a fetus when it comes to this murder, because this is a big prize for the liberal establishment. We're going to talk about that. And who will win this week's Hollywood Idiot Prize? The Libby, as I said, will be awarded. I think you pretty much know who is going to win that prize this week. It's a slam dunk, sir. You know who's going to get this Libby. It's clearly going to be you, because you're the only one who stuck your neck out this far. Callers, I invite you to dial into the Savage Nation real early, because you're not going to get on. 1-888-MSNBC-USA. Look at that. We have, wow, the lines are jammed on the Savage Nation. Well, they're not jammed. We have good callers here. I'm looking at them already. But I want to talk about Uday's House of Ecstasy. And here's the main point. Don't forget this one, please. Very big point. You know, for years we were hearing that the Iraqi children were dying of starvation. They didn't have baby milk. They didn't have medication. Remember? Remember CNN sent their men over there and they showed children, poor children with leukemia. It's a sad story. No medicine, bare shelves in the hospital. And they told us it was our fault for imposing an embargo on Iraq. Well, as it turns out, it had nothing to do with our embargo. All the money that was being shoveled into Iraq from the oil sales was being sucked off by Saddam Hussein and his evil sons. You saw the palaces, the excess is unbelievable to me. Personal brothels, rape chambers, pornography galore. It's unbelievable to me. You liberals owe us an apology. And you know who you really owe an apology to? The Iraqi children. Because if you had spent as much time attacking Saddam Hussein 5 years ago as you did attacking our embargo, maybe some medication would have been sent to Iraq. Shame on all of you, but I give up. I give up. If I said to you, you liberals, have you no shame? It's a moot point. It's a moot point. It's an oxymoronic question. Have you no shame in liberalism? Excuse me. You have no shame. That's all there is to it. Now, this is very important for you to know. We've heard a lot about the looted treasures of the museum in Baghdad. You know, cuneiform tablets and all that. Now, we have not been able to get any of the booty or any of the loot over here on the Savage Nation. But we do have some good news to you. We have some of the artifacts from Uday Hussein's House of Ecstasy. We have the actual handcuffs that were used in one of his sexual chambers, and we have his big nightstick. All this and more right here on the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere.
The men and women of our armed forces have delivered a message now clear to every enemy of the United States, even 7,000 miles away, across oceans and continents, on mountaintops and in caves. You will not escape the justice of this nation.
What a great president we have. What a great president. The man should be given a Nobel Peace Prize for taking down Terrorism International. Instead, we're on to the Lacey Peterson case like this is the bigger story. Or we're on to the looting. Or we're seeing these headlines of thousands of Iraqis in the streets saying, "Tanks for the memories, now go home, Yankee." Where'd the Republican Guard go? Everyone's like, oh, where'd they go? Well, they burnt their uniforms, and now they're in the street acting like they're average citizens, playing the game of, now go home, let us run our country. We need to occupy Iraq. I'm sorry, I know that that's a shocker for the liberal establishment and the socialists in the UN. Let's look at the history of other nations that have been liberated. The people are not capable of ruling themselves for quite a while. We need the general in there, and we need his personal assistants in there. I know it doesn't look too good, but the fact of the matter is there's a mess waiting to be happening because the Republican Guard is going to take over that country as sure as I'm sitting here. I don't think we should leave Iraq too soon. That's my opinion. Now, let's talk about the, it's important to talk about the House of Excess, of Saddam Hussein's House of Excess, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to run by it. We kept hearing over and over and over again that the children of Iraq were starving. I want to go back to that. The big lie was they were starving, no medication, dying, leukemia, because of the evil embargo. And now we find out where all the money went. You've seen these palaces. Is this the way a human being should live? I realize that this is everything a Hollywood liberal has and more. And of course, I guarantee you they're trying to buy some of the artifacts from these homes and the museums for their own homes. God bless them. But personal brothels, rape, drugs, Cuban cigars, pornography galore, pictures of the Bush twins hanging in the gym. This is an amazing story. And yet, interestingly enough, Time magazine calls Uday, with all of these excesses, troubled. You hear this? Somehow sympathy for the devil. He's a troubled youth. I guess he needs treatment. I guess Uday doesn't need to be arrested and tried. He needs treatment. And perhaps he can also use some closure. Maybe we can bring him to the Kennedy School of Government, and he could teach a course in, well, I don't know, savage relations, perhaps? Okay, we covered that story. The big catches is a big story, too. Big catches. I don't remember all the names. We know Abu Abbas. That's not a big story to you? The story of when they took over the Achille Lauro. Do you remember the story? The Palestine Liberation Organization, or one of the splinter groups, 1985. This is a huge catch. And the other guys, huge catch. all this week. Now, it's admittedly true that OBL and SH are still out there. SH and OBL are still out there. But do you know what the big catches tell me? Look, Abu Abbas has been on the run since 1985, since the Kili Loro affair, right? 85, 17 years, but the long arm of the U.S. reaches and finds and catches, no matter how long it takes. And I believe OBL and Saddam Hussein eventually will either be brought to justice or to some other final destination. And so these catches are very important in that context. Right now, I want to go to some of my wonderful savages and savagettes out there. Dennis, in San Francisco, thanks for calling the Savage Nation. Question or comment?
Yeah, I want to talk about heroes.
Heroes?
Yes.
Not hero sandwiches?
No, not hero sandwiches.
Because I've got a good meatball recipe.
You know, I'm really glad. I'm a former Marine, and I was in the first Gulf War, and I'm glad of all of our POWs coming down. But the thing with Private Lynch, you know, yeah, I'm glad she survived.
Right.
But they're not talking, you know, they're going to make a movie of her. They're going to do this with her. They're going to do
ludicrous.
that. What about the guys that rescued her?
No, I see the same thing. It's typical media upside down. It's Alice in Wonderland again.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry she got caught.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't mean to be insensitive here.
Right.
But these guys who got caught made a wrong turn and were captured. That's very sad. I'm glad they survived. But let's talk about the daring do of the fellows, as you just said, who got them out safely. What was that raid like? I mean, I'd like to know more about them, wouldn't you?
So would I. And I would also like to know, you know, here she has 2 broken legs and a broken arm and other things, and she's the only one that lived out of all of them. I would really like to know what the real story is.
No, wait a minute. She's not the only one who... she's not the only one.
She's the only one out of that group.
Oh, of that group.
Of that group.
Well, that's interesting unto itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, you know, and...
Wait. What do you mean a lot of speculation?
Well, just from me. I mean, like I said, I was in the first Gulf War, and they're just... they need to get the media out of there, for one thing.
Well, that's a separate story, but I appreciate your interest in this. I again, don't know why they're featuring Jessica Lynch. Could be because she's a woman. And again, this latest batch of POWs, again, a woman is featured. Why? Nothing wrong with women in the military, but why turn them into the story? This is the old issue of set and frame. Which is the frame and which is the set? Everything is upside down again. First, it was all about the embedded reporters. They became the center of the story. The embedded reporters became the story themselves. No, I'm sorry. They got to get the heroes in front of the camera and the people that they rescued in the background. That's absolutely true. Rich in St. Louis, Mo. Welcome to the Savage Nation. Topic, please. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I was just wondering your thoughts on, do you think that it's worth liberating 24 million people for the life of one American? I was just curious to know what your thoughts were on that, sir.
I don't even know what your question is. You mean one American is worth more than 24 million others?
20 Iraqis.
You mean they're not worth anything to you?
Not worth of one American life.
Well, I think that you're a very sick person, but thank you for the call. He's saying one American life isn't worth 24 million Iraqis. First of all, let's be pragmatists about this, and let's not get that stupid about it. Yes, 24 million people liberated is part of the story, a big part of the story, the majority of the story. Yes, it's also about oil that was being greedily held on to by Saddam Hussein, which will be released to the world. Yes, it's all about the issues important to Turkey, the issues important to Jordan, the issues important to Israel, and the issues important to Iran. These are all part of the pie of interest. But even if you pushed all of the other interest points aside, I am sorry to say that as the world's policeman, which is what we have become because of default, the Germans won't do it, the French won't do it, so America, or if you wish, the Anglo-American group, must now become the policemen, thank God, of the world. Thank God we have someone willing to step up to the plate and do it. 1-800-1888-MSNBC USA. Excuse me, when I come back, Bush's big catches and all of the other major topics, including, is the Lacey Peterson story as big as they're making it? Right here on the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere. Of why we fight. Remember I told you about these? What you're going to find out is what went on during the Clinton years when the military was being downsized by both Bill and Hillary. was analogous to what was going on in America in the 1930s. You've got to watch this piece on the Savage Nation on why we fight. You're not going to believe what went on. Watch this for a moment, then we'll come back on why we need a strong military. You got to hear this. Go ahead, play it. It's unbelievable.
International disputes. This pact was signed by 47 nations, including Germany and Japan.
President, I have the honor of handing you the London Naval Treaty.
Faithful to our treaty obligations,
they blew up ships.
We scrapped more than 60% of our naval tonnage.
Most of you don't know this.
Our army was reduced to a standing force of 136,000 men.
Look at this.
Smaller than that maintained by the little state of Romania. We let our hopes for peace become so strong that they grew into the determination not to fight unless directly attacked.
See? Barnard against the war. Look at this.
Those who said that we could find security.
Intergenerational left-wing red diaper doper babies.
Is apparent in the slice of public opinion.
I love these old movies. Just love them.
In 1939.
Music's even good. But it's the same thinking. That's the point.
War, not for me. This time America should keep out, and I know I will. If war breaks out in Europe, I think that this country should heed the advice of its first president and avoid all foreign entanglements.
I haven't the slightest idea of European affairs.
In the event of war in Europe, I think we should stay out of it entirely. And all our efforts should be made to keep out of the fight. Let Europe fight her own battles. They mean nothing to us. We should mind our own business.
By all means, no.
Yes, right. No. No.
Yes.
If my country calls, yes.
No.
We simply did not want to understand that our individual and national problems were,
Hollywood
and
all over
always
again.
will be, dependent upon the problems of the whole world.
Well, that's it. Why we need a strong military. Nothing has changed. If we lived in a dream world called heaven, we wouldn't need a military. I still drive around on the highways, and when I still see these cars that say, no war in Iraq, I'll tell you the truth, it's very hard for me to keep from rolling the window down and, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. But that's what I'd like to do. I don't understand their thinking. They're so self-righteous, holier than thou. We liberated 24 million people, and they're still riding around, no war in Iraq. I can't take it anymore. But the point here is, honey, we shrank the military. 8 years, the military, our military. 8 years, you're going to see in a few minutes how the military went from what it was in 92 to what it became after Bill Clinton left office. The number of ships went down, the number of planes went down, the number of guns went down, the number of bullets went down, the number of men went down. It was astonishing. And this was part of the liberal mentality. And of course, to me, that's why we were struck on 9/11. They were watching us, they saw us weakening, they saw the degeneracy, they saw the trickle-down immorality, and they said, America is finished. All they want to do is eat hot dogs and watch pornography. They made the same mistake in World War II when Hitler struck. And let me tell you something, the same rhetoric was used. Their military is weak, the American is too degenerate to fight a war. Well, World War II proved that every man can defeat Superman, particularly when that every man comes to America. Let's go to the next step. Do you remember what it was like after 9/11? Do you remember how frightened you were that we were going to be struck again? Do you remember you didn't know if we could win against this sleuthful enemy that was here, there, everywhere? We didn't know where they were going to be. Do you remember that? I do remember that. Because we didn't know if we would have a successful result against them. Do you fear the same way you did then now? I don't. I feel much better now after this Iraq experience. I feel that a great lesson was given to those who would do us harm, that whoever is behind it is going to be hunted down, and if need be, their country taken down. The point is, even if Saddam Hussein was not directly involved in 9/11, it does not matter. He certainly was supplying arms and operatives to those who were. And you must remember another thing. There's not a suicide bombing in Israel. There is not a homicide event anywhere conducted in a terror campaign that is done on the natch. It's all done from central planning downward. This is Michael Savage. When I come back, Congressman Dreyer of the Armed Services Committee. To Hillary and Bill Clinton and how we're going to rebuild it. We have some graphics, I believe, of what the military was like in 92 when Clinton inherited it and what it became at the end. If we can run those, that would be great. If not, we'll just go right to the guest. who is the chairman of the House Rules Committee. Let's go to David Dreyer. Congressman, welcome to the Savage Nation.
This is that wishy-washy, mealy-mouthed Michael Savage. I got to tell you, I think my mother was watching up until you brought out the handcuffs, the nightstick, and signaled that car next to you that said "No war in Iraq." But
yeah,
nice to be with you.
Other than that, she's happier than you are. No, but Congressman
she's
Dreyer,
having a happy Easter.
You are a great supporter of the military. You're chairman of the House Rules Committee, and you voted to refund the military. Can you tell us what's happened over the years before Bush, please?
Well, you know, it's really incredible, Michael. I will go back even further. I had the privilege of being elected to Congress with the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, my friend Duncan Hunter from San Diego. One term before we came, the chairman of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, Jerry Lewis, was elected. That was 1980 and 1978. You all know that we saw this great weakness in our defense capability in the latter part of the 1970s, leading up to Ronald Reagan's election, and we saw the bumbled mission to rescue our hostages at Tehran, Iran, back then, 20 years ago, and it took Ronald Reagan to rebuild the military and, of course, win the Cold War, bring down the Berlin Wall, and those
right. No, I understand, but how many ships did we have in '92?
We had a 600 ship. We had a 600 ship navy. We had a 600 ship navy, Michael, and we have seen cuts take place which have clearly weakened our defense capability. And you know, the 5 most important words, Michael, in the preamble of the U.S. Constitution are provide for the common defense. And I argue that virtually everything that the federal government does can be handled at another level of government. And that's why, unfortunately, during the Clinton administration, they were bringing about reductions in our defense capability. But George Bush understands very well.
We went from 600 ships to how many?
Basically about half that, unfortunately.
And what about divisions of men? I understand the divisions of men shrunk. Do we have those numbers? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I don't have the exact numbers, but I will tell you this: we, with this volunteer army that we have today, and the extraordinary level of patriotism, and you were talking, Michael, about the fact that we have seen our adversaries believe that we were extraordinarily weak. You know, they thought we were in the Second World War, and they thought we would be today, and we weren't.
Right.
Because we have men and women who courageously have stepped up to the plate. You know, in World War II, it took 108 flights and the dropping of 648 bombs to hit one single target. And we today, if you juxtapose the Persian Gulf War to the war today, have been able to see reduced from 3 days to 20 minutes the ability to, with laser technology, hit a target. So, yes, we saw the Clinton administration back down tremendously in our commitment to defense, and we know that George Bush has led the charge in rebuilding our military. And I've always concluded that it's very simple, Michael. You know, people say, well, how do you know if you've spent too much money?
Well, how can we rebuild our military? What do we need to do?
Well,
how much money do they have now? How much do they need?
What we need to do, Michael, is we need to pass the president's budget, which brings about a $30 billion increase in the level of expenditures for our national security.
All right, here's a question I want to ask. Does most of that money go for munitions, rebuilding the infrastructure, more hardware, as it were, or is it for pensions?
It's a combination. Michael, it's a combination of all those things, and it's not focused on pensions, it's focused on compensation for our men and women.
Right.
I'm particularly proud of the fact that I appointed to the Air Force Academy a guy called Chris Walker. He was the one who flew that B-1B Lancer that dropped those 4 bombs. And you said that Saddam Hussein is still out there. You know, based on an article that appeared in that newspaper that you were holding up at the beginning of the show, there's clearly a division within this administration as to whether or not Saddam Hussein is still alive.
Well, no, but my point was not whether he was alive or dead, Congressman. It was the fact that if he is alive, the long arm of the American military is going to get him.
Absolutely. I mean, and as we will Osama bin Laden, you're correct, at the end of the day, just as we now have with Abu Abbas. But I think that what we need to realize is that there is a renewed commitment, and it now, I'm happy to say, is developing into a bipartisan commitment. Why? Because of what happened on September 11th, which you correctly pointed out, and I think an understanding that with what we've done, liberating the people of Iraq, people now understand that we have to have a first-rate military, Democrats and Republicans. But
we have some very good conservative Democrats out there who are the allies of gentlemen like yourself. They're rare as a houndstooth, as they say. But Ike Skeleton was mentioned, and there are others. Right. And I think the listeners of the Savage Nation should encourage them to pass the president's budget, particularly when it comes to the military. Congressman Dreyer, we're just about out of time, but I want to thank you and your mother for participating.
I don't know if she's still watching, though.
Well, wait a minute. We'll make sure she isn't watching. This was taken from Uday Hussein's House of Ecstasy.
Please don't.
Well, they're just handcuffs. These are real handcuffs from the officer who guards me. Thanks for being with us.
I believe it. I believe it.
Thank you very much.
Michael.
We'll be right back on the Savage Nation. Take your calls at 1-888-MSNBC USA. Thank you, Congressman Dreyer. We also have a Hollywood idiot who's going to win a Libby. A Libby Award is definitely going to be given out here on the Savage Nation. Who is going to win the Libby Award? That's for you to guess when we come back. I think you know it. I would like to hear from you. I have my stethoscope on America. 1-888-MSNBC USA for your questions or comments right here on the Savage Nation. It means that there's a lot of people who believe in me. Thank you, my friend. I'll be right back on the Savage Nation. Be here or be nowhere.
I'm tired of all those ads.
I'm listening to my show on the Reno station on the way home.
Love you, Michael.
Well, thank God somebody's not insane in this city.
Listen to you every day.
Right on. He'd probably give me a ticket. I'm sorry, officer.
That's you. Look what I have.
Oh, I don't believe it. Get this woman on tape. I don't believe it.
I love you, Michael.
Stop the traffic. I'm signing that book in the traffic. Can we make a left here, legal?
Yes.
Savage wins! Could you believe that? Look, we got the lights behind us. Get that fan. Look at this. It's like we're getting the ticket, but instead she's getting a signed book. I love this. Okay, I'll pull over, officer. I'm sorry. Can I sign my book for you? Isn't this great? I love it. I got to get her name. I give up.
You don't understand. I'm kind of one of those cropped-haired women, but I still love you.
I'm afraid of you. I ain't going to say nothing that you don't like. This is unbelievable.
You've been waiting for this the whole day.
Yeah, all day. I said, he's coming tonight. I knew I'd find you guys.
This is the biggest thrill of the night. When I saw those lights, I said, it's either good or bad.
Oh, it's good.
If you live with a woman, I need your help.
Oh,
you got to be on my side.
I know. I told her. I said I'll be on your side.
I don't know what they're after me for. I'm not anti-gay. What do they want from me?
I don't know. I am on your side. I'll be looking
Hey,
at
man,
your website.
I love it. Thanks,
much.
guys. I appreciate it.
We love you.
I love this. I still love it. That was made for my first show on the Savage Nation, and then we had a huge interruption, of course, with a thing called the war. And I thought that for the new listeners and the people who first saw the first show, you'd like to see it again with my nice 1965 Cadillac. And, of course, the star of that piece is standing right in the studio. We're not going to bring her up here, but she became my personal bodyguard. And these artifacts truly do belong to her, to be honest with you. I don't know if we're breaking the law here, but, Sherry, you can have them back right now. And come and take your big stick, and these are perfectly legitimate. They're not from, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But now let's go on to the Laci Peterson story. Now, why do I want to go on to it? Because the media has gone on to it. Why is there so much media attention? Now, it's a horrible story. Pregnant mother, 8.5 months, it doesn't get any worse. Found with headless, the fetus in the water. Scott, the husband, is going to be charged with double homicide. But the question to the audience is, many questions really, the questions are, is the media attention appropriate? Is it an escape from the war? Is it an attempt to put aside the success of the war? And let's also go back to a point I made earlier. Please, it's very important. California is going to charge this guy with a double homicide, right? Double homicide. The fetus suddenly counts as a person, which I think it should. Yet the liberal establishment in California does not consider a fetus a person when it comes to abortion. They abort, what, 1 million babies a year? I don't know how many are aborted here, but they're not people. They're nothing. They're just tissue to be sold on the open market. But if you're going to count the fetus as a person for a homicide, which it should do, then for God's sakes, count the fetus as a person when it's in the womb for an abortion. 1-888-MSNBC-USA. Why do you think we have so much media attention on the Lacey Peterson story? Do you think that it's a worthy one? And, of course, let us go back to the other questions as well. Betty, in Dallas, Texas, thanks for calling the Savage Nation. Topic, please.
Michael.
Yes.
I think the reason that we fight is for freedom on the home front, defending our nation and keeping it strong, and liberating the countries that need us. And I was
wait, you say liberating the countries that need us, but that gentleman earlier called and said one American life isn't worth 24 million Iraqis. So I assume you don't agree with that. Thank you very much for that call. Lisa in Los Angeles, you're next up on the Savage Nation. Question or comment, please.
I have to say I agree with you, Mike. When people like Susan Sarandon and the Dixie Chicks voice their opinions on the war, and we bash them, that's suppressing their freedom of speech. And that makes us no better.
Wait, excuse me. Wait. You mean, wait, having an opinion about them, having an opinion about their idiocy is suppressing their freedom of speech? You are stupider than they are. You're a big dummy from Los Angeles. I'd like to give you an award, idiot. That's not suppressing their freedom of speech. That's telling them they're morons.
I don't agree with you. I had to say that to get on.
I don't care what you had to do to get on. You're a moron. Just because I disagree with them doesn't mean I'm suppressing their speech, lady. Okay, thanks for the call. I don't care how you got on. You're wrong. This is the standard line now. What's his name over there in Hollywood? What's his name? I forget his name. The husband, Mr. Susan Sarandon. I've never seen him in a movie. I don't even want to know his name. Now he's getting up there cloaking himself in the First Amendment. He's saying, I guess that my freedom of speech is being curtailed. Yeah, Mr. Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins. Great. We're not suppressing your freedom of speech. We're showing you there are consequences for your stupidity, sir. We didn't go out there and put tape over your mouth. That's ridiculous. Telford in Las Vegas, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
All right.
Hello, you're on the Savage Nation? Well, we're doing great on the call screener out there. I guess my call screen is not alive. Jerry in Detroit, Michigan, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Michael.
Yes, sir.
Great to talk to you.
Thanks
for taking my call. I have a question. It's not rhetorical. I mean this seriously. Why does the left always defend these theocratic, patriarchal Muslim nations who are terribly aggressive and brutal and always attack their own country? I don't understand it for the life of me.
Well, what you're saying is, why do they hate Christianity?
Exactly.
Why do they attack the church? Why do they insist with foaming mouths that we have a separation of church and state here, but they are absolutely in love with Islam? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think the answer is because they want to bring it all down, man. Anything they can do to bring down Christianity and Judaism is good for them. Because their minds are warped. Because liberalism is not a philosophy. Liberalism is a mental disorder, as that last woman will exemplify.
Amen.
No one is suppressing their freedom of speech. We're just calling them idiots. That's a huge differential. God bless America. When I come back to calls, 1-888-MSNBC-USA. And who is going to be the big one? The Big Libby. Who is going to get the Big Libby? You'll have to stay tuned to find out right here on the Savage Nation. Welcome back to the Savage Nation, 1-888-MSNBC-USA, and if you're lucky enough, you'll speak to more people than you'll meet for the rest of your life. Now, I'm pretty harsh on the Hollywood left because they deserve it, and somebody's got to put them in their place. It may as well be me. But to be fair, there are folks on the right who I think are passé. I call them boring rhinos, and they are the folks who appear too often on television. Now, I'm not going to make friends and influence people with this, but I do want to be fair. What is a rhino? A Republican in name only. And I can name them. If we can see some of their pictures, I think they're overexposed. Who are the most boring Republicans, people who you see too often on Fox or on any other channel? Well, I think you know who they are. I know they're going to hate me for this, but I think they're overexposed. The Bennett brothers, put an X through them. John McCain, I'm sorry, John, it's enough already. Newt Gingrich looks like a melted candle, melted wax candle. All Inspector, it's enough already with the Philadelphia lawyering. And Henry Kissinger, where'd they get him from all of a sudden? I mean, I know it's 24/7 and we have to fill the air, but I would say that these folks have overexposed themselves to the point of thank you guys, but do something else for a living. Now what I want to do is run some of the Hollywood footage, because you've all been waiting for that, and I think you know who's going to get the award this week. There's no question about it. This guy is the biggest idiot of them all. The others have had the smarts to pull themselves back in. But who do you think it's going to be? I know you pretty much got it figured out by now. Let's run the guy's tape. You'll see why we call him the Hollywood Idiot of the Week. Yeah, you know who it's going to be. Here it comes. It's clear as a bell.
Wind.
There it is.
Blowing.
Why is he talking so slowly?
A message is
Why
being
so
sent
slow, Tim?
through the White House.
Through the
and
White
its
House.
allies in
Talk
radio.
radio. Yeah, right. I work for the White House.
And Cooperstown.
I don't work for the White House.
If you oppose
Who do you work for? The Kremlin? The Kremlin's gone, jerk.
Ramifications. Every day.
Why is he speaking so slowly? What does he think? It's a state address?
Veiled and unveiled threats.
There's no threat. We're just calling you a moron. That's not a veiled threat, idiot. We're ridiculing you and you're not used to it. You don't like it. You're used to us sitting and slavishly worshiping you, idiot.
That I saw this weekend sit in mute opposition and fear.
We're not afraid of anybody, jerk.
I am sick of hearing about Hollywood being against this war.
You are against the war. What, are you for the war?
Hitters, the real power brokers and cover of the magazine's stars.
No, this guy is speaking in tongues now.
This issue.
Everything's a code word to this clown.
The concept has always been a popular target.
Well, for good reason, man.
I
Drugs, sex, and rock and roll.
High school shootings happened.
Or turn them off. That's the end of it.
Clinton.
Okay, you win the Libby. Yeah, I don't know where you want me to send it. You can let him run behind me. You get the big Libby. Tim, you get the big Libby. Mr. Susan Saran wrap. You get the big Libby. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Robbins, idiot. We're not allowed to ridicule you. What are you, God? What are you, Saddam Hussein? Anthony, St. Louis, you're on the Savage Nation. What's your question or comment for Michael Savage in the world?
Yeah, I would just like to say, how you doing, Mike? And I agree with you on them Hollywood idiots being idiots.
Well, that's great. That's terrific. Anyone have a question or a comment? Richard in Chicago, Illinois, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Michael, I think that President Bush is the greatest president that we've had in my lifetime, and I've been around for a few of them, so I'm going to be 60.
Well, what makes him great? Why is he the greatest?
Well, I think because the way he's handled this war, I think it was great. You know, he said he was going to go in, he was going to free and liberate the Iraqi people, and then he turned it over to the military and just let them do their thing.
Well, let me ask you, Richard, to be fair, did you vote for President Bush?
Yes, I sure did.
All right, well, then the call doesn't really count. I'd like to hear from some Democrats who've changed their mind about President Bush. Those would be interesting callers. I'd like to hear from some diehard liberals who say, you know what, I voted for Gore, but to tell you the truth, I'm glad I voted for Bush. Those would be an interesting take upon it. Daniel in Washington, D.C., question or comment? What's on your mind?
Yes, I'd like to know your opinion on something. With Syria last week proposing that the Middle East be removed of all their weapons of mass destruction, how do you think that should apply to Israel?
I don't think that Israel should be included in the quotient. Israel is an ally of ours, in case you don't know. The last I checked, Syria wasn't. I don't know which world you live in. Has Israel threatened America recently?
No, Israel hasn't. But
wait, so let's slow down. So Israel hasn't. So why would we want to disarm Israel?
Syria is proposing that the Middle East be removed completely of weapons of mass destruction. How does Israel not apply to the Middle East?
Because they are surrounded by people who hate them, racists who want to kick them in the sea, racists who don't believe Jews should be permitted in the Middle East. So would you suggest that they disarm themselves?
Perhaps.
Well, I guess you didn't learn anything from history, and as Santayana, the Spanish philosopher, said, those who do not know history are condemned to repeat it. Would you suspect that the Israelis did learn their history in World War II, and perhaps they know that without a strong defense, they are finished? Haven't we learned ourselves the same lesson?
Yeah, but where does that leave Syria?
What do I care about Syria, a terrorist state? Well, what are you so concerned about Syria?
I'm not concerned about the politics involved, but the people of Syria. Where does that leave Syria? That leaves Syria unprotected. That leaves Saudi Arabia.
Well, when has Israel threatened Syria without reason? I haven't recalled that. I haven't heard Israel say they want to drive the Syrians into the sea. Have you? I haven't heard Israel say they want to drive the Saudis into the sea. But I have heard Syrian leaders say that they want to drive the Jews into the sea. I mean, I've heard that. I mean, obviously that's what's been going on since the Jewish state was founded. So they need a self-defense of some kind.
Okay. Well,
thank you for that call. Think about that one. It's as simple as that. Julian, in New York City, thank you for calling the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'd like to make two quick comments to you. One of them is I hope that you'll use your power in the media to really display when we find out this information of why France and Russia really didn't want to go to Iraq and what they're really hiding, and not that they're some moral people and we're not
No,
as
it's
Americans.
all about money. When it comes to the French, it's always about the money.
Yeah, I mean,
when it comes to the Germans, it's always about building bunkers, munitions, and chemical weapons and the money.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that that's really publicized. The other point I want to make to you is what about these Muslim clerics and these Arab leaders and this League of Arab nations that get together and criticize us for occupying Iraq and liberating Iraq, and it's all a big joke and we're just there for these other reasons?
Screw them. Okay, how's that for an answer? They had nothing to say when Saddam Hussein was putting people into plastic shredders. They had nothing to say when he was stealing the money from the Treasury and starving his own children of medicine and food. So why take them seriously? If they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. They're a bunch of rug merchants, but no one wants to buy. But let's be positive about this. The positive note is on this program last week, I had a leader of the Shia minority, the majority rather, in Iraq. And I was shocked to learn that the repressed majority, the Shia, in Iraq, oppose al-Qaeda, oppose suicide bombing. They are the folks that we should be doing business with, as it were. I don't believe that the Shia in Iraq are going to express the same kind of rhetoric that you were hearing from those people. Thank you for that call, my friend. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're down to about 1 minute of the show today. It's gone by very, very quickly. Again, I invite you to listen to this program every week at this time on your local station. You can pick up a copy of The Savage Nation, a best-selling book, been on the New York Times bestseller list for 14 weeks, and there's a reason for it. It's because people in America want to save America from the liberal assault on our borders, language, and culture. How about you? I certainly know what I'm talking about. A nation is defined by its borders, by its language, and its culture. And we must defend our borders, our language, and our culture now more than ever, which is the central theme of this show, my radio show, and my best-selling book. Well, here comes the train. I think I'm going to go have a nice cappuccino. Have a good day.